Hey folks, I'm Chris, and I'm your Commander Mechanic, and we're still in the midst of November. But I had the opportunity to do a very special Let's Do a Brew with a very special guest. Before we get to that, I wanted to remind you that all this month, we're raising money for Extra Life. All donations are going to support SickKids Toronto and SickKids Network. So if you can, please donate using the link in the description below. Today's Let's Do a Brew is incredibly special. I was honored to spend some time with none other than senior magic designer in the lead of Commander products, Gavin Verhey. Gavin, welcome to the show.
I am so excited to be here. Let's do this thing.
I'm glad you're able to match my energy on this. I think that if there's anybody that can, it's going to be you.
Yeah, well, me and Rosewater, I think, would be your two candidates, I think, right?
Absolutely. And I am just absolutely astonished that you would agree to come on and talk to me, especially with your schedule being as busy as it is.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. I mean, for me, the magic community is so important to me that making stuff like this happen is a really big deal to me. So no, my pleasure. I'm glad to be here today.
Fantastic. Now, for anybody that isn't aware of you, and I don't think that there would be anybody out there that's watching this that doesn't know about you, you are Magic's senior designer.
Yeah, so I am a senior designer on Magic with a focus on Commander. That's a really big part of my job title these days. I've done a lot of things in my time at Wizards, but right now it's a senior Commander designer, basically. And the short version of that is I focus on our upcoming sets and products with an eye toward Commander in particular, working on our Commander releases. And I get to make a lot of the cards, which is pretty fun.
And I mean, no better time to be a designer with a focus on Commander than on the eve of the release of Commander Legends itself.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels so good. It has been such a long journey here, like an unbelievably long journey here. And to finally be able to, hold cards like this in my hand is a really cool feeling.
Right. It must be like seeing a child venture out into the world for the first time.
That's kind of how designing a set always is, right? You work on the set for so long and you think you know what's going on with it and you put stuff in there for certain reasons and you draft it a bunch and you play test it a bunch and you're get everything ready to go. But at the end of the day, your kid is riding your bike and you just pull your hands off and you just hope that everyone likes it. And the good news is reactions so far seem really positive. All the people who have tried the set out and limited really like it. The reprints, of course, are a huge hit. The new cards, the new legends, oh my gosh, have been really successful. So, fingers crossed it goes over well. And I would very much like to do a second Commander Legends. So we'll see. But if the set does well, which I hope it's going to, I think I can get that green lit. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, absolutely. If the reaction so far, just from the spoilers and the release, the pre-release events that we've seen, hype is through the roof for this set. For enfranchised Commander players like myself, as well as new Commander players and Magic players that have never touched Commander, now having a reason to or more incentive to is fantastic to see. From everything from the new design space that's explored to some of the existing lore characters from decades ago coming back and finally getting a presence in this set, you're just managing to hit all of the right notes so far, which has been phenomenal to see.
I think the biggest compliment I've received on the set multiple times is by people messaging me saying, hey, I haven't bought a box since, a long time ago. I'm buying a box of this set. Alex, my friend Alex Lulman, he's a big Popper guy. He messaged me the other day saying this is the first box he's bought since Mercadian Masks. It's wow, that is impressive, right? This is the set that got so many people out to go try it because there is just a lot of sweet stuff in here. It's really fun to play in sealed and do your boxing league style thing, which I'm sure we'll get into later. Mm-hmm. And there's also just a lot of nostalgia and excitement around every single card. You're going to want a lot of these for your Commander deck. So I am very hopeful in this set and we'll have a lot of fun stuff to talk about today.
Yeah. And not only new cards in the set too, but something that a lot of Commander players really look for in product that's made specifically for us in a lot of really high demand reprints in this set too, which is, again, absolutely incredible to see.
Yeah, Scroll Rack, Vampiric Tutor, Staff of Domination. Like these are cards people have been asking for a while. And this was a good place to put them. For the commander-focused reprints, this was a great place to deploy them. It's not like we've jumped everything in here ever, right? But getting a good number in here that will complement the new cards well, I think was really great.
Absolutely. From Rings of Bright Hearth to Mana Drain as well. These are amazing cards that are near staples in our format, and people have been clamoring to see reprinted in some way or another, and it's been given to us. I don't think that there's much more to ask for in that capability.
Maybe a doubling season, but you can't have everything. So next time.
We got a reprint of Doubling Season just earlier this year too. So
it's true. It's true.
I mean, it'd be greedy to ask for another one this soon. So with Commander Legends right around the corner, we've been seeing a lot of activity from you throughout this entire year. You've been getting into the content creation space this year with Good Morning Magic and appearing on streams and being part of the boxing league with the rules committee as well. Has this foray into content creation given you some new insights into the format and the community?
Yeah, that's a really great question, because to me, I see it less like a foray into content creation and more like getting back to my roots. Because my background is I started doing on one of the first ever Magic podcasts, MTG Cast, all the way back in like 2004, 2005. I started on episode 10 and I think stuck around through episode 200 and something. So I was doing that for a very long time. And I helped run, Magic forums and all this stuff for a very, very long time, write articles. And then, just as I got older and my life got busier and started doing more and more at Wizards, my free time was just crunched. And for a very long time, I've wanted to do a YouTube series. Like for a long time, I thought, I could do this really, really well. But then every time I think about it, I'm like, I'm just never going to have time for that. Like, when in the world will I possibly be at home this much? Like, that's just never going to happen. And then, of course, the events of this year unfolded. And I'm always the kind of person who's like, okay, if you give me a problematic situation, I'm going to try and make the best of it that I can. And it's like, okay, well, the world's in lockdown. You're at home a bunch, which is weird for me because I travel a lot. I'm a very social person. Like usually my schedule's totally full. Well, hey, if I'm going to be doing this anyway, now is the time to take advantage of that and use the time that I have here at home. So I created Good Morning Magic, and just, as some videos I posted on Twitter to see how they would do. And it was almost immediately apparent people loved it. And then, over time, I parlayed it into growing larger and larger and larger. And now I've got a YouTube channel with nearly 15,000 subscribers and growing steadily. I've gotten to do preview cards and box openings and interview special guests and all kinds of really great stuff. And definitely go check it out if you enjoy it. And I've always done a lot of podcasts and like guest interviews and stuff like that. But especially with being home so much, I've been able to do some streaming as well. So that's why you've seen me on like the Boxing League. And maybe in the future I'll even dabble in my own streams. Who's to say?
Absolutely. And that getting back into content creation and interacting with some of the community, that opens up some of the channels for two-way communication. You get comments on your videos on YouTube, you get comments on your posts on Twitter, you get people talking to you through chat, through Twitch as well. Getting the increased communication with the audience, is that showing you anything or letting you see anything that maybe a one-way style of communication doesn't really allow?
Yeah, for me, I've always been a man of the people. Like, I'm very much like, I want to hear what you're saying, and then I can go take that into the game, because for me, the game is for the players. And we should make the game that is the best game for the Magic community of what people want. And so I've always been really good about listening to the community, but especially doing all this extra stuff. I'm now just further into it than ever. So I can really have my pulse on the community and ride all the waves that they're feeling. And there've been a number of times this year that I've written very strong emails based on things that I'm hearing in the community. And that's great. Additionally, just the deeper you are in the community, the more you hear like the early rumblings before the actual earthquake hits. And so like, being on the cutting edge of some of this stuff just lets me really identify what problems could be happening and then try and cut them off early. Because when our cycles are so long, right? Like, you think about our design cycles, it'll take years to release a Magic set. Literally every day can matter sometimes. And so the earlier that we know that things should be going in a different direction or that we should be modifying cards, the sooner we can get them implemented into our sets and brought in downstream, which means the sooner they can come to you all. Because it's very dissatisfying for like a set to come out, loudly hear feedback after 3 or 4 months, and then know that you're not going to be able to implement that feedback for 2 years. So even if it's only like 4 months earlier now, it just helps that cycle all the more.
Right. And you've done some great work recently with letting the community know that you've heard some of their feedback too. There was a fantastic Twitter thread that you made about White's color identity and confirming that you've heard some of the feedback from the audience as well, and let them know that this is something that you're aware of and something that is going to be worked on in the future. But like you mentioned, with the development cycles as long as they are, it's not something that we're going to see tomorrow. It's not something that we're going to see with the next set. We do have to be patient about it.
Yeah, it's really tricky. Taking White as an example, because people are like, fix White. Let's just imagine, and this isn't true. Let's just imagine we live in a world where in 6 months, White is now the most powerful color in Commander. It's back up to normal, where we want it to be or whatever. Well, no matter if that's true or not, I can't change anything about Magic right now, right? Literally the cards exist as you're seeing them. And so the best I can do at this very moment is take your feedback in, improve the future, and let you all know, hey, I've very much heard your feedback. It's just going to take time. And I know that what a lot of people want is like just, their fingers to be snapped and to have the whole landscape change, but it's just a long scale evolution, and often for us on the scale of years. And when you're talking about White in particular, which is a whole color of Magic and its identity, no individual set is going to change that. And in fact, I don't even think that would be good, right? If let's say we release Commander Legends and there's 15 new White cards that are now must plays in your decks, I don't think that's good for the format. Like, it's a thing that's better to bring out over time. Now, White needs strong cards. Don't get me wrong. We need the mana ramp. We need card draw or facsimiles of those. We need, cheap stuff that will work out well in those decks. But doing it all at the same time doesn't let us see the impact of any individual one before we start making more. I think you will see big improvements to White in time, but it is just that. It's going to take time. It's not going to be in any one set. It's going to be over multiple sets. And every time we release a set, like a Commander Legends, that has a few cards in it, like, Keeper of the Cord and things of that ilk, it just nudges us closer and closer and closer to having more strong White cards. And it's going to take time. We have some cool stuff in the works, but I can't make it appear for you just yet. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. And we've seen the lead up to these changes as well, as early as Smothering Tithe, which is a staple in the format now, a card that people are playing White just to play this card in their decks, shows us that you're capable of making strong White cards. But like you said, it's not going to be one set where it's so heavily weighted towards White's power level that it upsets the entire balance and makes it so that there are a dozen must-buy, must-play cards coming out of a single set. It's going to be gradual, and we're going to see that evolution.
Yeah, and we always want to be able to see the impact of something so that we can take that into account if possible. And one danger of adding 10 or 15 cards right away to do it is, let's imagine we think we've solved the problem. We implement fix X for White card draw. Same way that Red got like impulsive draw, right? So we gave a Red version of drawing cards where you exile your top card and you can play it this turn. Let's say we did a version of that for White, but then when we released all 15 cards that featured that, let's say the players didn't like it, or they didn't find it fun, or actually wasn't very good, or any number of these things. Well, we would have just blown a huge shot at fixing it all in one place. And it's like, what if this actually made Commander worse? What if these cards are unfun to play with? The players don't like them and it's too fiddly or whatever the case might be. So, I think now for example, with Smothering Tithe, now that we've done that and we've seen, okay, players like this kind of approach, the taxing for effect thing, we can go and make more cards in that space and say, okay, we know players will like stuff in this shape. And that's really useful. But just, that design cycle of card comes out, start putting it into sets, wait for the set to come out. It just takes a long time. Yeah. And, big shout out to Ari. I was just say big shout out to Ari Nie on the design team for doing a lot of really great work pushing this forward. I mean, it's a group effort, but Ari, as the White member on the Council of Colors, has done a fantastic job.
Absolutely. And Ari's very active on Twitter as well. Some great feedback from him too. Again, taking feedback directly from the audience, and you love seeing that kind of thing. Us as enfranchised players, the vocal minority, we know still being able to interact and getting our voices heard is heartening. Now, the changing gradually is like applying the scientific method to design, right? Introduce a solution, see if it fixes the problem, and then replicate that. Or introduce a solution, see if it's accepted and it starts or doesn't fix the problem, and then veer away from that. It's the graduality of solving some of the issues that the color might have right now. Right?
That's a great way of looking at it.
We recently received another card, great for the color, great for the format in Skyclave Apparition, which is very well received in the format too. So it's proof that there are some things that are being introduced and that are being played with right now to show us that you're taking this feedback to heart and that we are starting to get some new toys to play with.
Very much. And I really hope that you all enjoy this new batch of white cards. And I guess stay tuned for the future.
Yeah. One card out of Commander Legends that I do want to bring up is Bell Borka.
Yes.
Which kind of plays with a new design space as well. An exiled card matters kind of design space. And it's very interesting that it's in Boros colors, two colors that like exiling cards, either their opponent's cards or your own cards. So it's interesting to see this kind of space played with. I thought that it was always one of White's strengths that had a lot of room to maneuver. So I'm glad to see a card like this exist.
Yeah, one thing we're very careful about with Exile is we don't want Exile to be Graveyard 2.0, right? The moment you start pulling cards out of Exile, there's this trouble where it really starts feeling like, well, it's just like, it's not actually gone, just a graveyard and so on. But I think an interesting untapped space with Exile is like looking at things in Exile and then doing effects based on it. Mm-hmm. Not returning them to the game, but just like, oh, hey, Bell Bork is a great example. Like, oh, you exiled something this turn. I'm going to get a little bigger for it. And one of our big goals with Commander Legends was to create legends that were entirely new build arounds. You can build decks that you were never able to build before. And with Bell Borka, like you've never been able to build the red-white exile high mana cost matters deck, but now you certainly can. And I think that's a really cool part of the card.
Absolutely. And again, if you're looking to explore new design space, no better place to do it than in Commander as a format and a set designed for Commander. Because if there's a community that's going to break some of these cards open, it's going to be the Commander community.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So now that we're seeing Commander be played with out in the wild right now, whether it be with pre-release events or with some of these pack openings or teasers that we've seen you play with some of these new toys on stream or on your show before. Are you planning on taking part in maybe the next evolution of the boxing league with the rules committee?
Yeah, we've talked about it some. I know that they're currently working on like what the next stage for the boxing league looks like. I would be happy to. I've got a Commander Legends booster box ready to go. I think it's a really fun way to play Magic, to like start with, these 24 packs, build a deck out of it, slowly evolve with packs from other sets as you go along. So I would love to take part. And haven't received any kind of like official invitation yet, but as long as I'm invited or able to do so, I would be more than happy to.
Fantastic. When I spoke with Sheldon about draftable or limited format Commander, he positioned it as an alternative to the standard formats of Commander. Is that how you see it as well? Or do you see this as kind of the next step for Commander, or the way that Commander is viewed? Draftable Commander, sealed format Commander. Are we going to maybe see this be more of an emphasis?
Well, I think, just like how there's all kinds of ways you can play, constructed Magic or normal, like competitive constructed Magic, standard, modern, pioneer, legacy, vintage, and so on. It's nice for Commander to have variants too. And you've got, your normal Commander deck that you bring and build, absolutely fantastic. But to have things like draft and sealed in Commander Legends, to have a boxing league style approach, which is like a little more of a hybrid between the two, I think that's really nice. And one of the big challenges that has faced Commander is, there's twofold. One, as we add more and more cards into the format, it's just harder and harder to figure out what you want to put in your deck, right? I know when I build my short list for building a Commander deck, it'll be like 300 cards or something like that. There's so many sweet cards. But second of all, I think the bigger issue is the power level one. And this is something we've seen a lot of discussions about, of like, okay, well, what power level is your deck? People will make up scales like 1 through 10, but then sometimes your scale and their scale are like differently calibrated, or people, say the wrong number or whatever. And it causes all kinds of challenges. With draft and sealed variants, and boxing leagues included among those, it's really nice that you're all building from a sealed card pool. You know that your decks are all going to be roughly equivocal to each other. And yeah, maybe, someone drafted better than someone else, but like on the whole, it's going to feel like the right kind of game. And to me, that's really great. And it stops relying so much on, power level definitions by number. It actually even stops relying as much on the social contract, because you don't have to worry about like someone putting Armageddon to their deck because like we just didn't put it in the set. So I think it's great for that reason. Additionally, I know there are a lot of folks out there who like to play more competitive styles of Commander. Like many people just play it for fun, right? Just like, hey, doesn't really matter who wins and loses. But there's a lot of folks who love playing Commander competitively, the CEDH crowd and many other folks. Well, this is a format that you can play competitively without feeling like you have to like jam every ridiculous combo in your deck that you possibly can. Because you draft, you'll have drafting from the same kind of card pool, and then you get to play and do politics in your favor or whatever you need to do. So I think there's a ton of advantages to this format, and I think that everything here will coexist and continue to go on in Magic's future. And it's a really exciting moment for me in Commander, because it's this tipping point of we've got not just this great format that we love, traditional Commander, but all these other wonderful variants as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the flat plane that everybody can play on when you're working with sealed format or draft format. Everybody's opening the same boosters. Everybody's looking at the same pool. And like you said, somebody might get better opens in their sealed pool, or somebody might draft a little bit better. But in the end, it's not like somebody is playing a $3,000 deck and somebody's playing a $50 budget deck at the table, or somebody's playing full on competitive with 2-card combos and somebody's looking to make 600 mana on their turn, right? It's the equalizer are these formats, and it's great to do something with sealed product like I've got over here, where I'm going to give some of these packs to my friends. We're going to open them up, and we're going to do a remote sealed league on this as well, and have some fun that way. That way we get to have that enjoyment of opening packs and still playing together.
Yeah, and right now is a fine time for that, right? With the advent of Webcam Commander and Spell Table and all that kind of stuff, it's a great environment to be playing Commander in. So, obviously, I wish we could all meet up in person for these kind of things. But once again, turning a drawback into an advantage, now you can play Magic against anybody in the world at any time, right? So if you want to play with the rules committee or me or someone in Japan, you can make all that happen, and you can set up the sealed league to play with all kinds of folks. And I'm really excited for Commander Legends release, because I'm sure a lot of people will have decks they built out of a box or out of 6 packs that they'll want to play against other people. And it'll be easy to find those games with players all around the world at any time of day. So that's a cool opportunity to me.
Yeah. And what is that how it's viewed, that this year has really been an explosion in the amount of Commander Magic played? It's suitable for the year that is the year of Commander, that we would see with today's global environment, that people are playing more of this format than any right now.
It's very difficult to say exactly how much Commander is being played where right now. It's difficult to track that kind of stuff. But definitely, we were worried at the beginning of the pandemic, because Commander is such a social format, right? You play with other people in your homes, or at a store or whatever, and it wasn't really going to work out. But people have been innovative, and webcam Magic has grown and grown and grown to be more of a normal thing. And now there's still tons of Commander being played, and a great avenue to play that stuff, which is great. And if you want to play competitive Magic, there's you can play Arena, you can play Magic Online. There's all kinds of great avenues for that, and you can play Commander on Magic Online too. But for Commander, which is really so personalized, and you want to talk with your opponents, and you want to have this relaxing 4-player experience a lot of the time. I'm so glad Webcam Magic has pioneered that, and to still see the format growing and doing great. The Commander products this year have been done phenomenally. Like the Ikoria Commander decks crushed it.
Absolutely.
So I feel pretty good about the amount of people that have been brought in through Commander this year. Now, it's not to say that it's perfect. Like, of course, the pandemic has caused all kinds of challenges. But I think this will be pretty good on the whole for Magic.
So with playing more Magic online, both with other people playing webcam Magic and yourself playing more webcam Magic, are you seeing your personal commander decks get to stretch their legs a little bit as well?
Yeah, for sure. Going on so many different streams, I've got like my staple of commander decks, and I always love trotting different ones out. And it's been really fun to try a bunch and also to like innovate myself. One thing I really enjoy doing is putting like self-imposed deck building challenges on myself, just to like try building something from a very new angle. So I have this blue-green Tachiova deck that I really like. And now I know you hear Tachiova and you're like, oh, boring, whatever, Tachiova. But it's commons and uncommons only. So it's made like some very interesting like kind of deck building distinctions as I'm playing with it. Of like, oh, well, how are you going to kill people with common and uncommon only commander? There's a lot of very interesting stuff. And I'm proud to say it's in a spot where it can hold its own. I've actually won on a number of streams. But like, yeah, I've got a lot of chances to trot my decks out and try some really interesting stuff. And I know with Commander Legends, I have a bunch of new decks to build, and I can't wait to try them out.
Yeah, right now, as Commander players, we have an embarrassment of options with the new Commander Legends, uncommon commanders, multicolored commanders, new 3-colored commanders as well as all of the fantastic reprinted original partners and some of the classic commanders getting reprints. It means that people get to get their hands on some of these for the first time. And there's going to be a ton of deck building going on. People are playing with these toys. We're already seeing deck lists pop up. And as a seasoned deck builder like myself, I love seeing people play with these new toys, try to break them, as well as impose those kind of restrictions on themselves as well. I am the same way. I love deck building under a restriction, whether it be a budgetary restriction, whether it be a rarity restriction, whether it be a secret goal of a deck. I've personally been playing around with a deck with Gyruda as the commander, as the companion.
Fun.
Yeah,
fun.
So everything
That's
in the
cool.
deck is even casting cost. So it's very interesting, and I love it. When it goes off, and those are the kind of things that I love to see.
That's a really cool restriction. I mean, yeah, that some people try building the companion decks, and our goal with that was always like, it would be really cool if it just inspires you to take commander deck building in a different direction, which it sounds like it did, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, and again, for myself, I love a restriction when it comes to deck building. I love trying to push the boundaries of what you can do with the tools that you have inside the box that you're given. So that kind of thing scratches my itch, much like it sounds like yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
So apart from the Tachiova deck that we've seen you play on stream previously, what other personal decks do you have that you like bringing out on occasion?
One of my favorites that I play a lot of is Mariki Ribere. It's this really old legend from Ice Age. And it was actually the first commander deck I ever built. So it's a very personal deck to me because it reminds me of like when I started playing Commander and like the kind of stuff I really liked at that point in time. And I like to think of different decks as time capsules where like you can keep a deck and it's like, this was from a very specific moment in history for me. Mm-hmm. And so I like that deck a lot for that reason. I have a Prosh deck that I built recently, which actually uses the new foil Esh Prosh in Commander Legends. And that one was really fun to try and build. Of course, Prosh is a very popular commander, but it was fun to kind of take my spin at it. I've got a Marrow-Nar Rats deck that's a lot of fun with 24 rat colonies. So that one was a lot of fun to try and build. So those are some of the ones I've been trotting out a lot, I think, recently.
Excellent. And do you go back and revisit some of those, the non-time capsule decks, when new sets are released? Do you ever say, this one's finally in print, I can add it into my deck, it's perfect for this deck that I have?
Yeah, sometimes I definitely do that. When I get new cards, I'll go back and put them in. But, I also know that like if the choice is between like spending time building a new commander deck and like tweaking an old one, I'll usually like favor like building the new commander deck. Mm-hmm. So when a new set comes out, normally my focus is like, oh my gosh, what are the new legends? What am I going to build this time, right? And like I know with Commander Legends, there are many cards in there that will go into my older decks, but who's got time for that? I want to go and build my new Obika deck or something like that, right? So
absolutely.
Fun stuff to try there.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that when you build a deck, you typically have a list as long as your arm that you've got to cut down in order to get to the 99. Is that how you deck build? Is it typically add everything that you would like in this deck to a list and then start making cuts?
Usually, what I find personally is that I know everyone deck builds Commander in different ways. Some people look through and try and find everything they can do. For me, where I have to draw the line when it comes to Commander decks is building a deck and then having to go find all the cards for it, because my collection is very, very huge, but it's very unsorted, and I don't really have a good sorting system for it. So usually my system is more like, hey, I want to build an X deck. I'm going to go look through my collection and spend some time just pulling out all the cards I think will go into that deck. Mm-hmm. And then I'll build my deck out of just the cards that I've pulled out. Now I've got, boxes set aside that are my really good high cards or whatever. But a lot of the time it's just me looking through a few boxes, pulling out cards that I want for, and then building the deck. And if there's a common I really, really want, I might look through my collection a little further for it. But I know that if I ever open up Gatherer or Scryfall and start sorting through cards, I will find 20 cards that are nestled deep in my collection because they're commons from Saviors of Kamigawa. I'm gonna spend 4 hours trying to find them or something. Right. At some point, I just have to draw the line, and that's tended to be where I draw it. But the nice thing about that is that some of my decks don't have things that you would think they would obviously have, and do have things that are a little more off kilter, because there's what I found when I was searching for cards in the moment, right? And right. I always think that's kind of fun, and to kind of get a little bit of extra variance into your decks that way.
And that's one of the things that I love. I've always said that deck building is half of the game itself, right? The half that's done personally, you get to put your personal imprint on a deck. It's like a fingerprint. Everybody's deck is different and reflects them as a person, as a deck builder. And it's great to see that your decks have that thumbprint on them, because your deck building style is, well, what do I have available? What can I find in my stacks and stacks of cards to put into this deck? It means that you can be playing the same commander as somebody else at the table, and your decks can be entirely different.
Yeah, I really like that aspect about Commander in particular, because with 100 card decks, you and I can go and build the same commander and end up with extraordinarily different builds for that mm-hmm. deck. And the fact that I'm usually looking through my shoebox or whatever to try and find stuff to put in it really adds a nice little spin, because there's also just pet cards that you have that you like, right? You might be like, oh, this is a great place to finally play this card, or what have you. So yeah, I think that element of power Commander is really powerful. For me, one of the strongest things about Magic is it's one of the few games where you can actually spend, and most players do, spend more time thinking about the game than playing the game, right? How many games can you say that for? There's not that many of them. Where with Magic, it's the amount of time you spend scribbling down deck lists or building or just thinking about new cards or talking on Twitter or whatever. It's huge. And that mm-hmm. kind of it's just you're part of this general ecosystem. You're mm-hmm. part of this huger environment that's more than just the game you're playing, but it's the people and the decks that you're building, or the people you're seeing in the decks you're building. And that is really powerful to me. And that's one of my favorite parts about Commander.
Yeah, half of the game happens offline. It happens before you ever reach the table or sit down and draw that first hand. And that's heartening to see. My tune-up series has people submit deck lists to me where they say, this deck just doesn't do what I want it to do. Or, I'm looking to add $50 to this, or I need to make 10 cuts from this list. And they ask for my feedback and my advice. And that just shows me these are people that maybe they've been working on this deck list for 6 months at this point, and they're just at a point where they are too close to it to make the changes to it that they need to. So they reach out and they ask for help. And you see the same thing that on social media. You see the same thing through Twitter. You see the same thing through Facebook groups or through friend groups and messengers, where somebody says, guys, I've just been looking at this same 99 for the past 2 weeks, and I don't know what to do with it. Can I get some advice? And that's what makes this community as amazing as it is. With other constructed formats, you might have people sit down at the table and they're playing the exact same 60 card list, because the goal in mind is, hey, I want to do the best I can in this tournament. But with Commander, it's, I want to sit down, I want to have a good time, and I want my deck to reflect me. And that means that you can have 4 people in a pod with the same commander, and they're all trying to do different things.
Right. Yeah. And I've had many situations like that. Remember, I wanted to sit down and I looked at a table once, and and there are 4 different Breya decks playing against each other, which is, its own ball of trouble. But like they're all doing different things. One had like a deep artifact theme. One was just like a generic good stuff deck. One had like, there's just all kinds of cool stuff going on there. And so I love that element of personalization. I do think it is important too, though. Like I always really appreciate stuff like the tune-up series. That's really great for like, hey, someone's going to work on your deck and give you advice. And often I totally agree with you that like having a friend cut your cards can be really, really valuable. At the same token, I would say that like, you might have your favorite card or your pet card or something like that. And people will keep telling you to cut it. At the end of the day, like Commander is for fun and you're playing to like play with the cards you enjoy. And so even if there's a card or two that you're like, well, it's probably not the right thing or everyone tells me to cut it, if you like it anyway, that's good enough reason for me. So don't lose sight of that. But that said, do get advice and do, get other people's opinions because it'll just make you a better deck builder as a result.
Absolutely. I have a disclaimer on every one of my videos that says Commander is about having fun. Advice is just advice. Play EDH your way. That is the number one takeaway. If somebody reaches out for advice and somebody says, well, that card's not optimal, remember, you can say, I still want to play it anyway, because that card means something to me. That's special to me. And this makes my deck do something that I want it to do. It might not be optimal. It might not be favorable, but I want to do it. And in the end, your deck is your deck. Don't let anybody tell you how to play this game.
Yeah, I entirely agree. And, a lot of people get into heated discussions online about like, this is good, this is bad, you should play this, you shouldn't play this. And to me, it's just like, play Commander, have fun. And that's what it all boils down to for me. And, no matter what kind of Commander you want to play, whether it's you're comboing out with Thassa's Oracle or you're playing your Hammer tribal deck, like they're both equally valid to me. Just don't play them in the same game against each other.
Exactly. Make sure that you sit down and you talk about what you're trying to do before you get into a game, because that's going to be a definite mismatch of expectations there. And,
for sure.
And that's what contributes to the poor experiences that people may have during this game too.
Yeah, and that's what one of the things going back to it, like one of the big strengths of Sealed and Draft Commander is that you don't have to worry about that at all. It's going to be roughly equivocal. So go give it a try if you haven't yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we're going to be seeing over the next couple of weeks, a lot of people play more Sealed with the release of Commander Legends. We're going to see people draft this set. We're going to see people play Sealed, and we're going to see what limited Commander looks like. And I'm very excited for it because I love a good Sealed pool. I love a good Sealed pre-release pool. And from the recent SCG pre-release as well, we got to see some of these toys in action too. And trust me, there are a lot of people very excited to get their hands on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I played both the SCG event and the Loading Ready Run pre-release, and both games were fantastic. So can't wait to see how it all turns out. Absolutely.
So this year, 2020, has been hailed as the year of Commander. I remember you made that announcement towards the tail end of 2019. And as an enfranchised Commander player, I've got to say that I haven't been let down. There have been some amazing things released this year with this format in mind, which is incredible. I spoke with Sheldon and Shivam, and we talked about how most standard releases have a few goodies for our format. Some good legends, some staple cards like the aforementioned Smothering Tithe. But it seems like this year, we really got some knockouts in terms of new releases. Not just Commander Legends, but Ikoria was a phenomenal set for this format too. Between all of the new legendaries and Mutate as a mechanic, we're seeing a lot of innovation in the format. Not only that, but the C20 sealed products, precon products, were an absolute hit too, as well as the precons that came with Zendikar Rising. I think that those two precons that came out with Zendikar Rising are some of the strongest precons that we've seen released with a standard set. So in your opinion, as the man who proclaimed 2020 as the year of Commander, how has it been received? Do you feel that it's lived up to that title?
I think it absolutely has. Like, I mean, when you look at Magic history, So our first Commander decks came out in 2011, I believe that's right. And, Commander has grown by leaps and bounds since then. It started off as a small project, like just a little thing that we thought some players might pick up, and then has grown into where it is today. But the amount of Commander that we've done every year has basically remained the same, like one series of decks every year. Well, that doesn't seem right. Like Commander is maybe our largest Magic format. We shouldn't be doing what we're doing 9 years ago. So this year was really an attempt to right size like how much we're doing for Commander. And I think it was a huge success. Like players loved it. I mean, we haven't seen Commander Legends yet, but from what I can tell, it's all doing very well in terms of like how many people are buying it. But also, just like the excitement and the like overall like feel from the community is very, very positive. And we've done a lot of great stuff. Now, I will say that, for me, one of the things that I really like doing as a designer is looking at not only what we did well, but what we could do better. And I think we knocked a lot of things out of the park. Like a lot of the new commanders are really, really fantastic. A lot of the themes are really good. We came out with some new products like Commander Legends and Commander Collection Green. Both have a lot of buzz around them that I think is really good. People loved the new Zendikar Rising and Commander Legends Commander decks that are like a little more accessible and really focused for newer players. A lot of wins. So like, let's say, things are like 90 to 95% like in the win category. There's lots of wins. But there are definitely a few things that we've learned as well. And a big one for me is really keeping in mind that we should not be doing anything that risks outmoding older commanders, or at least really trying to avoid it, because people put a lot of time and effort into their commander decks, and releasing commanders that risk obsoleting a commander that someone loves is definitely not a thing we want to be doing. And thinking about my decks, right? I have my Mariki Ribera deck that I love. If there was just a far better version of Mariki that came out, I'd be like, well, do I have to change the new one? But like, I don't really want to change the new one. It's kind of like this feel bad moment. And unfortunately, with Commander Legends, that's actually one of our design goals anyway, like already built into Commander Legends. You see that in the set, right? Despite there being so many legends, we put a lot of effort in to try and make sure that a lot of them were wonky build-arounds and not just powerhouses. But we want to get away from the Chulanes and the Uroks and the Uroks, I guess maybe. Urok is powerful, but it's still interesting. But like definitely the Chulanes and the Corvolds and stuff like that, where it's just like, I'm a value engine. What do? I draw you cards and kill people. Okay, that's boring, right? Like that's not what we need so much of. And I want to get away from doing some of that. The other big discussion I think that was really great and actually happened recently, the discussion sprung out of Jeweled Lotus, which of course has been a very hotly discussed card from the set. I'm sure everyone has opinions on Jeweled Lotus, love it, hate it, whatever. I think, it's very telling to me that Josh Lee Kwai ran a poll on his Twitter account that got well over 10,000 respondents. And he asked, what do you think about Jeweled Lotus? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Or are you indifferent? And it was just basically a third down the line, right? And so I thought it was very, very interesting to see that result. But regardless of what you think about Jeweled Lotus and how you feel about it, the message that came back to me loud and clear about that card is, regardless of how good Jeweled Lotus is or isn't, what we want to avoid is stuff that might speed up Commander games. Because a lot of players really, really enjoy like the how Commander takes a while and that you get to build up to stuff. And not, some people do want it to go faster, but a lot of people like turboing out a card that costs 5 mana on turn 2 or 3 is like, even though Commander players love ramp, it feels very different. And thinking about things that don't push us closer to that cliff, as Josh Lee Kwai might say, of making the game too quick, I think is important. And so, while I don't regret doing Jeweled Lotus or anything like that, it definitely has informed some future designs. Additionally, I mean, the conversation about white has also been one that we've been listening to a lot this year. You've seen some of the fruits of our efforts, but certainly not all the fruits of our efforts. And that's one that we just have to have stuff in motion for, but we're continuing to make tweaks for in the future. Like literally last week or 2 weeks ago, I think it was last week, I had that big discussion on Twitter about white in Commander. And then the very next day, I was talking with Glenn Jones, who's kind of my compatriot. Like we do a lot of work on Commander. And I was like, we should change this card. I pointed to a card in a future set and was like, we should change this one and we should switch it from being blue to being white, just so blue doesn't accidentally eat up some white's color pie. And we did it. And I thought that was awesome. And when the set comes out, I'll tell the story about which card it was. You can speculate on the kind of thing it would be. But just being extra cautious about that is important. And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier with the community feedback style stuff. So I say it's mostly been a huge success. And like any great success, you learn a lot from it. And I think that now we'll still continue doing a lot with Commander. 2021 has some pretty sweet Commander stuff in store. And we'll keep taking these lessons and applying them forward.
Fantastic. And all of that is amazing to hear because not only was there a lot of buzz around Jeweled Lotus coming out of Commander Legends, but there are two other cards that received a lot of buzz in Opposition Agent and Hull Breacher in the set, with a lot of feedback saying, why aren't these white? Why couldn't these be white? So it's incredibly heartening to hear you say, you turned around, went to the design file and said, this isn't blue, this is white. That just shows that some of this feedback and some of the possibilities are able to be carried forward, and that we'll see them eventually. From an enfranchised player like myself, I'm incredibly happy to hear news like that.
Yeah, and I mean, I really am all about that. Like, I like being the change in the world. I love hearing things and going and tweaking them. It is unfortunately, as someone who loves acting fast, like I'm very, very much about like act decisively, make changes. It is also eternally frustrating to me in that I will make a change today you will not see for a year or more sometimes. Yeah. But like when it comes out, I'll know that I'll have done the right thing, or at least hopefully so. So there's very much things that I'm taking into account. And, on Opposition Agent, Hull Breacher, just to speak to those for a moment, those are tricky ones because like Opposition Agent, the words on that card, that is a black card. Like, you
control your opponent. Yeah.
Right. You control your opponent and you steal their stuff. Like, that is a black card. Mm-hmm. That said, I totally understand the feeling from folks about like, hey, this is encroaching on white's color pie. Because even though this is a black effect, which I think is important to pull apart, even though it's a black effect, it feels like white it has worse versions of that effect. So it's like, okay, let's try to not do that where we can, knowing that sometimes we are going to have to do things like that across all colors. But let's not try to do that where we can. And let's really try to make sure that white, or whatever color is appropriate, but in this case it's white, gets the best version of that effect is important. So it's all stuff that we're thinking about. And look, it's funny. It is really funny in some sense about how much I talk about these cards, Jeweled Lotus, Hull Breacher, and Opposition Agent, because I designed 0 of them. I was on the team when 0 of them were made. And the only one I really talked about was Jeweled Lotus, because everyone was talking about that card internally for reasons that might be obvious. It's the Lotus. But I still care about it immensely. And as someone who is, one of the front faces for Commander, I view it as my job to communicate with the audience about what we think and what we know about these cards. And so, and about future cards, and then take their feedback in. So thank you. And I've made a lot of people aware of it. And now let's hope that in the future things fall more appropriately where they may make people happy. I think there's a lot of great learning lessons from Commander Legends, and we're going to take these things going forward.
And we are all grateful that we've got people like you that are working behind the scenes and in front of the scenes that hear the feedback and take that into account as well. It can't be said about other games or other formats as well. So again, it's incredibly heartening to hear.
Oh yeah, well, it truly is my pleasure to be a part of the community in such a fashion. And I welcome you all, by the way. If any of you have any kind of questions, you can always hit me up on Twitter, or thoughts or feedback, send it to me. And I do get a lot of tweets. Like, it's important that I let you all know this, but know that I read them all. And I might not reply to everyone just because I am a man of limits at some point, but I do read them all. So please, you're welcome to send me your feedback. I'll be sure to take a look at it.
Absolutely. I can attest that you read all of your tweets. That's for sure. So we talked about 2020. We talked about some of the new stuff that has come out. We've talked a little bit about Commander Legends. That begs the question, what's in store for 2021? If 2020 was the year of Commander, and like you said, 95% of it was accepted and taken well and received well by the audience, and there's going to be some tweaking and some tuning, what does that mean for 2021? What do we have to look forward to? And I know that you can't go into full detail, but we have had some teasers of what's upcoming. But what are we getting as Commander players?
Yeah, well, I think, for this year, there's been a lot of things that we've talked about. And I've been like, we're trying this out. We're learning from this. And we've got big plans for the future. You're going to start to see some of that stuff realized over the next year. I think, for example, talking about white, you're going to just keep seeing cards that help out white and what's going on there. Once again, it's going to be a trickle. It's not going to be a flood. But there's some really neat stuff next year and some new things that we're trying in that color space. I think you all will really enjoy. One thing that we've seen this year go over really well, or some of the things we've seen go over really well this year, you'll see continued into next year, and even some of the years beyond potentially. So there's a lot of really cool stuff lined up for next year, and I can't say everything or really much quite yet. But what I can say is that if this year was the year of Commander, my goal was not that 2020 is the year of Commander and then it's back to normal. My goal is that 2020 was the year of Commander, and then that's the new normal, or at least close to a new normal going forward. So I'm not going to say like every year you should not expect a Commander Legends and a million Commander decks and Commander Collection Green and all that stuff. But you can expect. I'm going to give you a hint. There's a Commander Collection Green. We're probably not going to do green and just stop, right? So there's other stuff we have on the horizon that you'll see announced in the future.
Fantastic.
Yeah, there's some good stuff.
A lot to look forward to, and yes, if there's a Commander Collection Green, then I doubt that the other colors wouldn't get some love there too. So very much looking forward.
You're just going to short Commander Collection Green 2 already? Come on, man. It's time. There's more green cards. Let's do this.
Yeah. Like green needs more time in the spotlight right now. So.
Right. Yeah, I feel like green's pretty good.
Absolutely. So, Gavin, I really want to thank you for coming out and spending some time talking to me today. I really do appreciate it, especially with your schedule being as busy as it is with the release of Commander Legends coming up. And I know that once people start opening this product and playing with this product, that you're going to be a proud papa watching people play with something that you've had your hands on for a while now. And honestly, I'm looking forward to seeing it too. I'm looking forward to building new decks and brewing new decks. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to design and what we're going to get for the year coming forward too.
Yeah, and you're not just near. I mean, right now I'm knee deep. 2021, that's old news. Right now I'm knee deep in 2022 stuff. So there's some really cool stuff coming out over the next year and the year after. And of course, the tricky part about my job is by the time something comes out, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. But just wait until the next thing we do, and I think you'll all be very happy with what you see.
Absolutely, yeah. If there's anything that you can do, it's tease us along from one highlight to another highlight here. And are we going to be able to expect Good Morning Magic to continue as well?
Well, I would like for it to. I mean, it is a project that I've created that I really, really enjoy. I love making the show. It is awesome to have this kind of connection with the players and to finally be able to realize this dream that I've had for a long time of doing some YouTube stuff. The flip side of that is as you well know, making a show, it is an incredible amount of work. And right now it is just me doing it. Like I know I get comments sometimes that are like, you should tell your editor to like fix this thing. And I'm like, oh, I am the editor. In March, I knew zero about editing videos, and now I do this all. So will it continue in the future? I'm going to keep doing it for now. And I would like to. Admittedly, at some point when the world is back to a situation where I'm going back into the office and, I have my social schedule back to normal, it might be really hard to fit it in. And maybe I'll have to reduce to, one episode a week or more regular episodes or something like that. But for now, I'm really excited to keep going forward with it and experimenting. Like normally my videos traditionally have been very, very short videos. And in the past week and a half, I've tried out some long box openings, like an hour and a half long box opening, 50-minute long unboxing Commander Legends, a 2+ hour long gameplay video, like drafting and playing the set. So I'm trying out some different stuff, and we'll see how that all goes over. And then from there, like we'll see how it goes. I would like to keep doing it, but for me, one thing that's true in Magic, a maxim I always have, is that every card in your deck comes at the expense of another card, right? So if someone's like, oh, why don't you play X card in your deck? And it's like, well, in Commander, if I'm going to put this card in my deck, I have to take something out. And maybe I would way rather have any of these other cards in there, right? And with video creation, it's like, I love doing it. It's awesome. It does really great stuff for me. By the same token, those 6 hours I spend on every video could be spent making 6 hours of Magic cards or, sleeping, because a lot of the time I do it from like 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning, like literally. So there's, at some point, I'm going to have to make some tough decisions. But for now, at least I'm just running forward with it. And I'm really enjoying what's happening. And if anyone out there listens to the show, well, if you don't, by the way, go check it out. But if you listen to the show and you really enjoy it, please let me know, because that stuff's really important. Let me know what you want to see more of, because that's really important for the future of it.
Absolutely. And we're going to eat it up while it lasts, because it is fantastic content. Why don't you remind everybody where we can find you, not only for Good Morning Magic, but on socials as well?
Yeah, totally. Well, the good news is about my name is it's pretty unique. So I'm just at Gavin Verhey most places. So Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you're looking for, you'll find me there. And then on YouTube, just search for Good Morning Magic, or even like my name, Gavin Verhey, YouTube, and you'll probably find me. And I've got over 100 videos now, which is nuts for me to say, but there's a lot of content for you to go there and watch, and all kinds of really great behind the scenes stuff of how we make sets at Wizards. So go check it out and enjoy.
Awesome. Gavin, once again, I've got to thank you for coming out and speaking with me today. I really do appreciate your time. And I'm hoping that we're going to get another opportunity to chat sometime soon, and maybe sling some cardboard too.
I'd be more than happy to. Hit me up for a game and we can try and figure something out. That'd be a blast.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Gavin. Take care, everybody. And as always, good luck and have fun. Once again, I wanted to thank Gavin for his time. It was an amazing honor getting to sit down with him, talk about Commander Legends, the year of Commander, and what we've got to look forward to in 2021. Again, folks, if you like this content or our November series, please consider donating to Extra Life using the link in the description below. As always, folks, thanks for tuning in. Good luck and have fun.